Welcome back to the newsroom. Our focus tonight takes us to Afghanistan. Gaining the upper hand over the Taliban isn't the only major challenge the country's next president and foreign forces is facing. Winning the war against the drugs trade is key to bringing stability to the war-torn country. Since the fall of the Taliban regime in 2001, Afghanistan's drug production has increased tenfold. Today, more than 90% of the opiates on the world markets originate from Afghanistan, and moreover, the lucrative drug trade provides funding to the Taliban. The United States has been leading the effort to eradicate the problem, pumping millions of dollars into the war on drugs. But the mission has so far failed, prompting the Obama administration to recently shift its drug policy in Afghanistan from eradicating opium poppy fields to neutralizing drug lords. Now, is this new strategy likely to be more successful? Well, we'll put that question to Ran Leo of Transparency International in just a few minutes. And François Lila Jacinto will also be joining us from Kabul. But first, this report from our correspondent Claire Billet on the ground.
Scenes like this one could be obsolete in a year's time. These Afghan police are destroying a poppy field.
These are poppy seeds. That's what you make opium with. And that's the milk.
The campaign to stamp out the poppy industry has cost millions of dollars, funded by the United States. It's also cost the lives of many Afghan police officers. Yet progress is slow going. Afghanistan remains the largest producer of opium and heroin in the world. This new strategy of eradication is about targeting the drug traffickers, especially those with ties to Taliban rebels.
The money coming from the smugglers to the Taliban is like fuel of Taliban. They protecting security for heroin labs, for the smugglers' convoys.
Opium and heroin trafficking account for $3 billion of Afghanistan's yearly revenue. That's around double the amount they receive in international aid. The UN estimates that the Taliban gets anywhere between $200 and $400 million of that sum. And according to Lorenzo Deleg, opium is not financing just the Taliban.
There are people in positions of authority, governors, police chiefs in certain districts, and even those much high up in the government who profit from the drug trafficking. It's a major source of income within the government.
The offensive on the poppy industry is a risky business for the Afghan authorities. Upsetting the rural population or the drug traffickers could push local people to shift their support to the Taliban and the subsequent insurrections that have ravaged the country.
Well, joining us right now for more is François Lila Jacinto, who's in Kabul, and on the line from Berlin, Germany, is Ran Leo from Transparency International. Thank you both for being on the program tonight. Lila, let me start with you. You know, it's very interesting that the surge in opium cultivation production coincided with the onslaught of the U.S.-led military operation in Afghanistan and also the downfall of the Taliban. What can you tell me about this? How do we explain this?
Well, it's a complicated answer, but bear in mind that before the Taliban fell in 2001, briefly they did manage to cut down opium production. At that time, the Taliban thought that it was a way to endear their movement to the international community. That did not work. In 2001, when the US-led invasion started, the US used a lot of corrupt warlords who benefited from the drug trade. And in the initial days after the US invasion, then Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld was initially he resisted efforts for the U.S. military to join in the counter-narcotics fight.
All right. Well, let me put this question to you, Ran Leo in Berlin. Who exactly is behind the drugs trade in Afghanistan?
Not to do with the capacity failure of the central government and the current regime. They obviously have a serious problem of the governance issue, so they cannot penetrate into the local areas. The government, the current regime, they had to cooperate with the warlords. Therefore, they had to they lean on the warlords. The warlords contribute money to them. So this is a source of corruption. They sell position for money, and then after you get this position, then you try to get it back from the opium trade.
Right. So what we saw in the report just now by Claire Billet, what I got out of it anyway, is that encouraging opium cultivation in Afghanistan could also be a way to fight the Taliban.
I'm not sure I agree with that, because the government, and in any case, they should commit to eradicate the production of opium.
Right. But I mean, this would what the report suggested is that this would put the local farmers on the good side. Basically, this would encourage the local farmers to be with the Afghan government, to side with the Afghan government.
No, because the farmers, obviously, the production of opium is more profitable than any other agricultural products. Therefore, the farmers, they would like to continue the production of opium, obviously.
All right. So can I ask you this then? How much are the Taliban benefiting from the drugs trade?
I don't have concrete figures on that.
So, Leela, are you aware of how much the Taliban are benefiting from the drugs trade?
We do have an estimate. This comes from the U.S. Senate. The estimates were actually interesting. The latest estimate was that the Taliban gets around 70 million per year from the drugs trade. This is actually lower than what was expected. It was lower than a UN estimate last year, which said they were getting around $400 million. But now bear in mind, I mean, the Taliban resistance can be at times effective, but it is a very low-cost operation. So $70 million, the Taliban can do quite a lot. They pay their foot soldiers around $10 a day. So that's fairly adequate for the Taliban, but not as high as previously thought.
All right. Ran Liao, let me ask you this. What do you make of this new strategy which was initiated recently by the Obama administration, basically phasing out poppy eradication and instead looking to neutralize drug lords as part of this strategy against the drug trafficking in Afghanistan? Do you think this is going to be an effective strategy in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay, so you think it's going to be an effective strategy. Leela, same question to you. Do you think it's likely to be effective in the long term?
I have to tell you that, like Claire Billet, I too, have seen this poppy eradication programs, and at that time, I thought this didn't seem right, to go after the penniless farmers when, the big fish were going scot-free. It also depends on how they go after the big drug lords, but certainly, I mean, this it sounds to me like a much more effective strategy to go for the top rather than going for people trying to earn a livelihood.
All right, Ran Liao, last question to you. Do you think that this war on drugs can be won?
I'm not so confident. If the government do not spend effort in building up the capacity in eradicating the corruption, then this war, I'm not so sure it will win.
Leela, are you optimistic at all?
No, I totally agree with them. I mean, the drugs are so much a part of the Afghan economy today that, in fact, it's even affecting the architecture of Afghanistan right now. I call it the architecture, I call it the drug lord Baroque. You see it in Kabul, these huge structures of glass and granite. It's financed by the drug money. You see it even in the provinces. Seemingly out of nowhere, you get these castles. Everybody knows that this is on drug money. The nexus between the Afghan economy right now and the drug economy is really close. Right, it's going to be a tough fight.
So a tough fight, a tough battle ahead indeed. Thank you very much, Leela Jacinto in Kabul, and thank you also to Ran Liao of Transparency International, who was on the line there from Berlin. That's the focus tonight. Of course, we'll be talking about Afghanistan in just a few minutes, about the elections there this Thursday, and all the latest international headlines coming up very shortly on France 24. Do stay with us.